There's a quiet kind of poverty that doesn't show up in your bank account. It shows up in your eyes, in the way you avoid looking at the receipt before you sign it, in the way you smile at the cashier while something inside you flinches. You tell yourself you deserve it. You tell yourself it's been a long week. You tell yourself this one won't matter. But it does. Every one of them does. If you're over 35 and you're watching this right now, I want you to do something uncomfortable. I want you to picture yourself at 65, not the version you hope for, the honest version, the one being built right now by every decision you're making this month. The car in the driveway, the number in the savings account, the freedom you have, or the freedom you don't. Most Americans will arrive at 65 with less than $34,000 saved. Not because they didn't work. They worked their entire lives. They worked through holidays, through illness, through arguments with people they loved. They earned more money than their grandparents could have ever imagined, and they still ended up trapped. That's the part that should disturb you, not the number, the pattern, because the pattern is invisible. It hides inside ordinary purchases. It hides inside 3 specific things that nearly every middle-class American buys year after year without ever questioning why. And by the time they understand what those 3 things actually cost them, it's already too late to undo. If something in your chest just tightened a little, do me one quiet favor before we go any further. Tap that like button, not for me, for the part of you that already knows where this is going, because the people who silently click away from videos like this one are exactly the ones who need them most. And the algorithm only shows this message to the people who deserve to hear it, if you tell it to. Now let's keep going, because what I'm about to say, no financial advisor on television will ever tell you out loud. You are not broke because you don't earn enough. You are broke because you've been trained to spend in a very specific way, a way that feels like comfort, a way that feels like reward, a way that feels like living. And the system that trained you profits every single time you confuse a purchase with a feeling. Think about the last thing you bought that you didn't really need, not the groceries, not the gas, the other thing, the one you bought after a hard day, after a fight, after scrolling on your phone for an hour in bed. You didn't buy the object. You bought relief. You bought the 5 minutes of dopamine that came with clicking confirm. You bought a version of yourself that for one short moment felt like everything was finally under control. And then the box arrived, and the feeling was already gone. This is the trap nobody warns you about. You're not addicted to spending. You're addicted to escape. And in a country that sells escape on every screen, every billboard, every checkout aisle, the average person doesn't stand a chance unless someone sits them down and tells them the truth. So that's what this is. Not advice, not a budgeting lesson, a mirror. Because there are 3 things you are almost certainly buying right now that are quietly stealing your future, not in some dramatic way, not all at once, slowly, patiently, the way water carves out stone. And if you don't see them clearly before another decade passes, you will end up exactly where the system wants you. Old, tired, and still working. Before I show you the first one, understand this. None of these 3 things will look dangerous on the surface. That's the whole point. The most expensive purchases of your life will never feel expensive in the moment you make them. They will feel normal. They will feel earned. They will feel like the kind of thing a responsible adult buys. And that's exactly why they destroy so many lives so quietly. Most people will never connect the dots. Most people will go to their graves believing they just got unlucky, that the economy was against them, that they started too late, that somebody else got the breaks they didn't. But you're not most people. You're still here. You're still listening. And that means something inside you is ready to see what others refuse to see. So let's begin with the first one. The one almost nobody talks about. The one that has stolen more retirements in this country than any market crash in history. The first thing you need to stop buying is the vehicle you cannot actually afford. And I know what you're thinking. You think you can afford it. The payment fits in your budget. The dealership ran the numbers. The bank approved you. Your neighbor has the same one. Your brother-in-law has a nicer one. So what's the problem? The problem is that the average American is now spending over $700 a month on a car payment. Some are paying more than $1,000 for 84 months, sometimes longer, on a machine that loses value the moment they drive it off the lot. A machine that requires insurance, fuel, maintenance, registration, and 1,000 silent fees no one ever warned them about. If you put just that car payment into a simple index fund for 30 years, you would retire with more than $1 million. Just from the payment alone, not the gas, not the insurance, just the monthly payment most people don't even blink at. So let me ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with this one. What did you trade for that truck? Not in dollars, in years. Because that's what a payment really is. A payment is a slice of your life that no longer belongs to you. Every month that money leaves your account, a piece of your future also leaves. Quietly, without ceremony, without a receipt. And the cruelest part is that you don't feel the loss until decades later, when you finally look up from the steering wheel and realize the road behind you is full of versions of yourself you couldn't afford to become. People don't finance vehicles because they need transportation. They finance identity. They finance the way they want to be seen at the stoplight. They finance the look on their co-worker's face when they pull into the parking lot. They finance the story they tell themselves about who they are now compared to who they used to be. And there is nothing more expensive in this country than the need to be seen. You're not buying a vehicle. You're renting a feeling, and the lender knows it. That's why the commercials show you the sunset and the open road and the family laughing in the back seat. They are not selling steel. They are selling escape from the version of your life that already exists. Here's the part nobody talks about. The person who drives a paid-off, 10-year-old sedan and quietly invests the difference will retire wealthier than 90% of the people honking at them in traffic. They will retire calmer. They will retire freer. They will retire without the slow panic that lives behind the eyes of someone making payments on something that broke down last winter. That is stealth wealth. That is the silent revolution nobody applauds. It looks boring. It looks unimpressive. It looks like nothing from the outside. And that is exactly why it works. If this part is hitting somewhere uncomfortable, I want you to do something for me. Drop one word in the comments below. Just one. Type the word awake. Not because it changes anything for me, because it changes something for you. The simple act of admitting in writing that you saw yourself in this video is the first crack in the cage. And I read those comments, every single one. Because the people who type that word are the ones who actually escape this trap. The ones who keep scrolling in silence almost never do. Now here's where this gets darker. Because the vehicle is not really the problem. The vehicle is just the symptom. The real problem is the psychology that made the vehicle feel necessary in the first place. The same psychology that's about to make you buy the second thing on this list. And the second thing is even more dangerous because at least the truck sits in your driveway where you can see it. The second thing hides inside your daily life so completely that most people don't even count it as spending. They count it as living. They count it as normal. They count it as the small reward they earned for surviving another week in a country that gives them less and less to look forward to. And that is exactly what makes it so devastating, because you cannot fight an enemy you've been taught to call a friend. I'm talking about the second purchase, the one almost nobody is brave enough to question. The one that quietly drains more wealth from the middle class than any bad investment ever has. The one that wears the disguise of comfort, but operates as a tax on every dream you've ever postponed. Let me show you what it really is. The second thing you need to stop buying is the convenience that is slowly bankrupting you. I'm not talking about one coffee. I'm not talking about one meal delivered to your door. I'm not going to insult you with the kind of advice you've heard 1,000 times from people who don't understand why you do it in the first place. I'm talking about the entire emotional ecosystem you've built around being too tired to live your own life. Look at your bank statement, not the big purchases, the small ones, the ones you scroll past because they feel too small to matter. The food delivered because cooking felt impossible. The subscription you forgot you had. The app that charges $9.99 every month for something you use twice. The drive-through on Tuesday, the drive-through on Wednesday, the drink on the way home because the day was heavy. The candle, the decoration, the thing on sale you didn't need but couldn't leave the store without. Now add it all up. Honestly, not the version you tell your spouse. The real number. For most Americans over 35, that number lives somewhere between $600 and $1,200 a month, sometimes more. And it disappears so quietly that they never feel it leaving, because each individual purchase feels like nothing. $8, $14, $22. None of them feel like a decision. They feel like breathing. But here's the part that should stop you cold. If you redirected just $800 a month, starting today, into a basic index fund earning a modest historical return, you would have over $1.3 million by the time you turn 65. Not from a raise, not from a side hustle, not from a lucky investment, just from the convenience you currently consume to survive a life you secretly don't want. So what are you really buying? You are buying numbness. You are buying the right to not feel how tired you actually are. You are buying a few minutes of relief from a system that has been engineered to drain you, then sell you back small pieces of comfort at retail prices. Every DoorDash order is not dinner. It's a confession that you are too exhausted to participate in your own life. And the companies selling you that comfort know it. They built their entire business on it. This is the part that should make you angry, because the convenience economy did not appear by accident. It was designed for a population that is overworked, emotionally depleted, and quietly grieving the life they thought they would have by now. It was built for you. Specifically, they studied your stress, they mapped your loneliness, they priced your exhaustion, and they sold it back to you in a paper bag with extra napkins. You are not weak for falling into it, you are human, but staying in it is a choice, and every month you remain inside that cycle is another month you are paying someone else to keep you tired. Stealth wealth begins the moment you stop paying for your own exhaustion. If this part is making you uncomfortable, that's the point. And if you've made it this far into the video, you are not the average viewer. You are not the person who needs to scroll away to feel better. So before we move into the third thing, take 3 seconds and hit that subscribe button. Not because I'm asking, because the version of you that wants to wake up at 65 with peace, with freedom, with options, with quiet dignity, that version of you needs to keep hearing these conversations. And the only way that happens is if you give that version of yourself permission to come back. Now, I want to warn you about something before we go into the third one. The third thing is the most painful, because the first 2 cost you money. The third one cost you something money cannot buy back. Most people never understand what it is until they're already too old to recover from it. They look back at their lives and they cannot identify exactly where the bleeding happened. They just know something is missing, something invisible, something they paid for in installments without ever signing a contract. The third thing is not a product, it's a posture, a way of being. A purchase you make every single day without ever opening your wallet. And it is the single most expensive thing you are buying right now. The third thing you need to stop buying is the life you are performing for people who do not actually care about you. Let that sit for a moment. Because this is the one nobody on television will ever name. This is the one your friends will never warn you about. This is the one your family quietly participates in alongside you, because admitting it out loud would force them to look at their own. You are not just buying objects. You are buying an image, a version of yourself that exists mostly for the eyes of other people. The house slightly bigger than the one you needed. The renovation that didn't fix anything that was broken. The vacation that had to be photographed in a specific way. The clothes you wear to events you don't enjoy, attended by people you wouldn't call if your life fell apart tomorrow. And here's the brutal truth. Almost no one is watching as closely as you think. The neighbor you're trying to impress is drowning. The co-worker you compare yourself to is 2 missed payments away from collapse. The relative who seems to have it all together is medicating something you cannot see. You are competing in a race where everyone is bleeding and pretending not to, and the prize at the finish line is a kind of exhaustion you cannot buy your way out of. This is the silent cost of identity-based spending. It is not measured in dollars. It is measured in years of your life sold cheaply to strangers in exchange for a glance of approval that lasts about 4 seconds. Think about what that approval is actually worth. Now think about what you traded for it. The promotion you took because the lifestyle demanded it. The hours you'll never get back with your kids. The sleep you sacrificed. The silence you stopped enjoying because silence reminded you that something was missing. The marriage that grew quieter because 2 people stopped having the energy to be present with each other after working themselves into the ground to maintain a version of life that neither of them ever truly wanted. This is the real bill, and it comes due at 65. Not in dollars, in regret. The slow, suffocating regret of a person who finally has time to think and realizes most of their decisions were made for an audience that has long since stopped watching. Stealth wealth is not about being cheap. Stealth wealth is about being free. It is the quiet decision to stop letting strangers vote on your life with their attention. It is the radical act of caring more about the morning you'll wake up to at 65 than the impression you make at the parking lot today. The wealthiest people I have ever known dress in clothes you wouldn't notice. They drive vehicles you wouldn't photograph. They live in homes that don't announce themselves. And inside that quietness, they have something almost nobody else in this country has anymore. They have time. They have peace. They have options. That is the real currency. So before this video ends, I want to leave you with something you can actually carry with you. You are not behind. You are awake. And being awake at 45 or 55 or 60 is infinitely more valuable than being asleep at 25. The people who arrive at 65 with peace are almost never the ones who started the earliest. They are the ones who stopped lying to themselves the soonest. They are the ones who looked at the 3 things stealing their future and chose quietly, one decision at a time, to stop feeding the machine. You can be one of those people, starting today. Not next month, not when things calm down, not after one more purchase, today, with the next decision you make, with the next dollar that tries to leave your account in exchange for a feeling. Every unnecessary payment you cancel is a year of freedom you give back to yourself. Every impulse you walk away from is a small piece of your 65-year-old self thanking you in advance. Every time you choose silence over performance, peace over image, time over things, you are not depriving yourself, you are returning to yourself. That is the awakening. That is the work. That is the path almost nobody takes, which is exactly why almost nobody arrives. If you've made it all the way to this moment, you are not the same person who clicked on this video. Something has shifted, and if you let that shift speak louder than the noise around you, the next 10 years of your life will look nothing like the last 10. Before you leave, look at your screen right now. Another video is already waiting for you. I didn't choose it. The algorithm chose it for the exact version of you that exists in this moment, on the other side of everything you just heard. Don't close the app. Don't go back to scrolling. The most dangerous thing you can do right now is let this feeling fade before it becomes a decision. So tap the next video, stay in this space a little longer. The person you are becoming is built in moments exactly like this one. I'll see you there.